a world of full conflict, division, emotional overload, we tend to throw around the words empathy and compassion like they're the same thing. But let me tell you, they're not. So today we're going to talk about something that touches every leader, every caregiver, every first responder, anybody that is in a position of seeing the pain and suffering of other people. And anyone with a heartbeat that cares about people, the difference between empathy and compassion. And more importantly, why the difference might be the key to your emotional survival. Hey, friends, welcome back to Warrior Servant Leader podcast. I'm Pat Welsh. If you're tuning in today, it probably means you're someone who gives a lot, who's concerned about being a warrior servant leader wherever you're at in your walk in life, either professionally or personally. So maybe you actually are carrying a little bit more than you realize. Here's probably the biggest takeaway I want you to grasp as I share with you today, that when empathy and compassion go unchecked, you can burn out and be taken out of the fight. Whatever that passion, whatever that mission, whatever that vision that you have for your life, personally, professionally, and especially empathy unchecked. Compassion, and we're going to talk about it in a few minutes, but I've felt both. I know empathy. I know compassion. I've seen the pain and suffering of people, both in my personal life, in my life. Like the largest case of seeing suffering and pain was when our youngest son died, serving overseas. But I've also seen firsthand what happens if you don't know the difference between when to embrace empathy and when to embrace compassion. Now, I'm pretty famous for, I like to define my terms right up front so people understand what I'm talking about, that there isn't any misunderstanding or misinterpretation because you have a different definition of something from what I have. So here's my definition of empathy. It's when you feel what someone else is feeling. You step into their shoes, you feel their pain, and sometimes you don't know how to get out of it. It's immediate, it's raw, it's very powerful, it's very personal. And if you're not careful, that empathy can pull you under. Now, compassion, on the other hand, enters that same space of the pain and suffering of someone else, but with a very specific purpose. Compassion sees the suffering, but you don't absorb it. You anchor to it, but you don't let it consume you. Compassion says, I care, I'm here to help, but it keeps enough distance to stay clear headed and be present. Probably in my lifetime, the greatest example of both empathy and compassion and not being overwhelmed by empathy and being consumed by it would be in the example in life led by St. Teresa of Calcutta. Just an incredible example of having both control and focus on empathy and compassion. And even in my own personal and professional life, um, I've faced decades of being in law enforcement and seeing things that no one else should have to see. And if you're a cop out there, especially in an urban environment, you learn real quick which emotion, if you will, empathy or compassion, you can survive with. Uh, I remember cases in our crimes against children unit when I was their commander, and they were interviewing kids who have been abused, exploited, raped, just horrific pain and suffering in their life. And personally, it was the kind of evil that made me want to scream and choke the shit out of people, to be quite frankly. Uh, and and basically kind of lose emotional and physical control because it was so horrific what these kids were being put through. And you want to break down, you want to punch a wall, you want to throat punch them, but you can't. You have a job to do, and that is where harnessing compassion is the best path forward. And that's the place where you're going to have the most power to actually do your job, as opposed to being consumed with feeling what the person in pain is feeling. And it wasn't just my crimes against children's unit. I mean, when I was commander and even a supervisor, a sergeant in patrol, I spent 13 years on midnights in patrol. And I could see it in my patrol officers. I could see it in detectives when they were called out, that they would wrestle with this tension every single day of their career, because we were extremely active police department in the city of Dayton. Taking 30 calls in one night for a one man crew was nothing. And you could be going from a domestic violence to an assault to a robbery to whatever, misdemeanors, a fatal car crash, just all sorts of stuff. And you were zipping back and forth and having this exposure to all this pain and suffering. And I had it. I can remember when I was a watch commander, I had 4 separate homicide scenes in one 10-hour shift, and the first 2 homicides were 30 minutes apart from each other, and, it was a holiday. Uh, the, uh, the first homicide was in a housing project. A DJ, a disc jockey, this was July 4th, uh, was, packing up his equipment, totally innocent, had nothing to do what with any beefs or anything going on in that housing project, and he catches a stray bullet and is dead on the scene. Totally innocent. 30 minutes later, there was another homicide, totally unrelated and this was all in the same district. Wasn't citywide. This is in one single district, 4 homicides in a 10-hour shift. The homicide squad hadn't even arrived at the first homicide when the second homicide came in, and they were not related to one another. They were a few miles apart, but not related. So I had my whole district of patrol officers tied up on 2 homicide scenes. And I had to make a second call out of additional, and there was only 5 homicide detectives. So now 4 of them are out, 2 on each scene. I only had 1 sergeant, so the sergeant has to bounce between everything. And then we had a third homicide, and it was later in the night, about 2 o'clock in the morning. And the detectives hadn't even gone home yet from the first 2 homicides. So we had to bring in more people. And Then the last homicide was about 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was a running gun battle uh, between two cars flying up a 4-lane city road, but it happened to be a state route. And the driver of the one car is shooting at the other car, a passenger in that car shooting back. And the driver that was driving and shooting, he gets shot and killed, wrecks the car. There was a teenage girl as a passenger in that vehicle. It was some girl he had picked up at a party that night, being a holiday, and she lived. She isn't wasn't even really injured that bad from the car crash. It crashed uh, into a field area and hit a small tree. And what really struck me in looking back on it is that I felt the pain of the people that were caught up in all this. We had scared witnesses. Nobody wanted to talk about anything. And highly probable this was drug related. Everybody knew everybody that was involved, but nobody wanted to be a snitch. Nobody wanted to talk, and you could see the fear in our witnesses. I had to deal with the heartbroken relatives of the dead people that showed up on scenes, and the hysterical response that they had, which was just heartbreaking. Then you had the chaos at the scene, people running, people doing stupid stuff. They hate the police. They're mad at the police, and they're taking their frustrations out on the police. So you have all this pain, anger, and anguish everywhere. And you feel that and you step into that, and it's very powerful, but you have to control your response to it. And the best way to control that response is to switch to being compassionate, and compassionate in the sense that you're not ignoring or minimizing the pain and suffering, but you compartmentalize it, if you will, and control it so you can focus on how can I help? How can I navigate through this to come to a solution? A solution for the police, a solution for the person or the people that are in pain. And if you let your empathy go unchecked, you'll never get to the power of compassion. And it's not just about crime scenes. It's not just about people, and we'd get complaints from citizens that I had a complaint against me for being rude once, and when the sergeant asked the lady how I was rude to her on a traffic stop, she she openly admitted, she goes, "I called him every name in the book." She was black, I was white, and he just kept looking at me going, "I appreciate that, ma'am, but," and so she thought I was being a smartass and I was being rude, and that I was being cold-hearted. I wasn't. I was trying to maintain my emotional response to her, um, you know, handing me my ass for no reason at all. And that's what compassion kind of does. It keeps in check that desire to react and respond. I had a coffee cup that once it said that had the definition of stress on it. Stress is when your mind overrides your body's desire to choke the living shit out of somebody that desperately deserves it. Uh, Compassion keeps that stress in check. I can remember a case. I had an officer. He'd been in an officer-involved shooting, a legitimate one. It took a toll on him. He killed the guy. It was during the foot pursuit through a housing project in this same district that I'm talking about that had the 4 homicides in 10 hours. And he just really took it very personally, very emotionally, went through our required um, conversations with the psychologists and whatnot, and he came back to work. But during that same year, so that in a period of 1 year, he had this officer-involved shooting, but he also had his he and his wife at the time were having their first baby, and the baby died in childbirth. And so he had that on his heart and on his mind, and the stress of that, the psychological and personal and emotional and spiritual impacts of all that. And then he has an officer-involved shooting that ends in death as well. So I eventually got transferred to being the commander of the Central Business District. I got transferred out of the command, the watch command, and this officer uh, reaches out to me and asks if he could come to work for me in the Central Business District and stay on midnights. It's just downtown Dayton. Things, except for a little area of bars and restaurants, it's pretty quiet on midnights. So he came down and he's doing well and getting back in the saddle of enforcement. And I come in one morning about 7:30, quarter of eight, and he got off at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he is sitting outside my office. And he asked if he can come in and talk to me, and I said, "Yeah, absolutely." He comes in and he tells me a story of what happened during the shift that night. That he and another officer had been dispatched on a suspicious person at a high school in downtown Dayton, and they had separated. It was a pretty large building, but they were going to walk the perimeter. And the one officer went one direction, and this officer went the other, and they were going to, meet up after they circled around the building. And the officer gets around the back of the building. There's a stairwell that goes down into the basement at the backside of this high school. And as the officer turns towards that stairwell, there's a homeless person down at the bottom of the stairwell. And this all happened in a matter of seconds. The homeless person reaches, and the officer had his flashlight out, and he sees this guy. He goes to clear leather to draw his gun and to give him some commands. The guy reaches in his back pocket and pulls out and points towards the officer. Well, what the guy pulled out was a wallet. It had his ID in it. And this, again, all happened in seconds. And the officer tells me he came within a split second of shooting this guy because he thought he was pointing a gun at him. But in that split second, he registered, wait a minute, it's not a gun. And he looks at me, and I mean, he is shaking. He is visibly upset. And he goes, "LT, I can't do this job anymore." Now, I could have gotten caught up in the uh, feeling his pain, wanting to try and embrace him and embrace that pain and turn into a friend who can cry with them and whatever. But I did. I recognized empathetically. I saw his pain, and I switched to a mindset of compassion. And compassion isn't just feeling what someone else is feeling. It's responding in a way that you can help them navigate through that. So what I did is I first encouraged him, hey, and I'm not using his name. Um, you're okay. We'll get through this together. We'll find some solutions. You did your job last night, and it turned out okay. So don't focus on what could have happened, but let's focus on what happens next. And he had told me, he goes, I can't do this job anymore. I have to get out of law enforcement. And I said, all right, we'll walk through this together. And I said, can you go? And he had been certified in dispatch at one time. I said, can you go back to dispatch and work there until we can navigate with you and for you how to apply for a disability? And he says, I can do that. So I picked up the phone and called the commander in dispatch, and we made it work out. And he spent a number of months up there while he processed his paperwork to get a disability and get out of law enforcement. And it worked out for him. Now, I know you might be going, okay, Pat, you don't know what you're talking about. Uh, you haven't been there, done that. And I would respectfully disagree with you. I've been on hundreds of homicides and death scenes of all kinds, all sorts of stuff. I've been through my own trauma of stuff. I've had panic attacks because of the stress of the job, all those kinds of things. But what I'm sharing with you, neuroscience actually backs up that there is definitive evidence that empathy lights up the same part of your brain that physical pain does. Your empathetic response to someone else's pain and suffering lights up the same part of your brain as physical pain. Your body literally can't tell the difference between your pain and somebody else's. It's almost like they just mesh together. Not that you're feeling physical pain, but you are feeling their emotional pain, and you can't tell the difference between are you in pain or are they in pain? Compassion actually activates a caregiving system uh, with all, and I don't know all the science and the terms and whatnot, but compassion activates a caregiving system in your response when you see the pain and suffering of someone else and want to do something about it. It's that part of the brain that feels purpose, feels warmth, feels motivation, and it activates that. And that's why you can become laser focused on solutions rather than being consumed by all the environmental stressors that are going on in that person's life. So, yeah, empathy hurts, compassion heals. And compassion heals both the person suffering and actually helps you heal from having been stepping into their pain. So, what's all this mean to you? Especially if you're in a high pack profession, it means you have to make a shift. It means you have to go from absorbing people's pain and suffering to anchoring, to attaching to it, but at an arm's length, so to speak, that I see it, I can identify it, I know what it is, and I'm not going to get drug into it, but I'm going to anchor myself to it so I can help remove that pain and suffering from who's ever experiencing it. Your mind has to go from reacting to responding. Reacting with, man, I'd like to throat punch this son of a, you know what, uh, that caused this pain. That you react with anger. You react with overwhelming emotional sadness. You have to make that mind shift from that to responding to be a problem solver. And I guess I can't say enough times, but I'm going to say it one more time. Don't get pulled under. Uh, stand tall, stand ready to help, but don't get pulled under into the emotional quagmire that's going on that's causing all this pain and suffering. Now, I'm going to switch. I'm going to make this very personal, whether you're a person of faith or not. Take it out of law enforcement, put it into your personal life, and just objectively look at how Christ acted when he saw all the suffering that he saw. He was moved. It says repeatedly, he was moved with compassion, not moved with sadness, not moved with um, empathy, but he was moved with compassion at what he was seeing in the suffering and pain of others. When he saw people that were hungry, what'd he do? He fed them. When he saw people that were grieving, what'd he do? He comforted them. What'd he do when he saw people that were broken emotionally, spiritually, physically? He restored them. He restored them to their dignity. He restored them to an understanding of who they are and not their circumstances. They're not defined by being blind. They're not defined by being a prostitute. They're not defined by being a leper. That's not what they are defined as. And when he saw that brokenness in them, he restored them. And he was constantly observant. He didn't do Kermit the Frog with the Lipton tea meme, or drinking his tea with the little caption that says "None of my business." When he went through towns and areas, he noticed things. He was looking for the least, the lost, and the last, so that through compassion, he could help restore them. At times he did weep because he was so overcome by emotion, but he didn't get stuck there. He wasn't defeated by it. And then, most importantly, he didn't quit. He kept moving forward. There's only one time in Scripture where people wondered what the heck happened to Christ. And that was after he was baptized by John the Baptist. He went off into the wilderness for 40 days. And there's nothing in Scripture that tells us where he went, what he did, and why. But when he came back, he started his ministry. And through the next 3 years, no matter what happened to him, he kept moving forward. He didn't complain. He didn't retire on duty like a lot of cops do. They get so frustrated and so pissed off and so overwhelmed with disillusionment about the job, about the people they're trying to protect and serve, about the media, about the lack of leadership. All those things are causing pain and suffering in their life, and they retire on duty. Christ didn't do that. He stayed anchored to his mission and his vision, his calling. He stayed anchored to seeing pain and suffering, not being consumed by it, including his own, the passion of Christ. He did not get consumed by that. He kept moving forward, literally to the cross. And he did it without regrets or excuses. So if you want a person that you could turn to and go, what's the best example of the worst crap that could happen to you in your life and still move forward, I'd give you Jesus Christ. Now, what are some real practical ways you can start leading with compassion today? Because this all may sound like, it's going through your mind. Yeah, Pat, well, yeah, what you're saying is true, but, And then you have your reasons or excuses or fears or doubts about how do I do what you're talking about? Well, I'm going to give you 5 ways. And I'm telling you, like me, you're going to be given opportunities to do these things and fail. That's right. You're going to fail. You are not perfect. I'm not perfect. I know these steps. I know these principles. And I can assure you, in my personal and professional life, I have fallen down and screwed it all up and failed myself. But I keep moving forward. So, the first way you can start this leadership with compassion is step back before you step in. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is this for you to carry or you to walk with? Or is this someone else I know, or a resource that exists is the place this person needs to be? Not me. I'm not a freaking hero. I don't know everything. Hell, I don't even know a whole lot. So step back before you step in. Secondly, create healthy boundaries with the people that you are responsible for. If you're a supervisor or at work, uh, that you're you can't be everything to everybody. So create healthy boundaries so you're not absorbed into everything, and learn to do these things. Learn to know when to refer somebody, know when to release somebody, and know when to rest for yourself. That you cannot be on hyperdrive all the time. And I'm telling you, if you're one of these overtime hounds, that you sign up for every bit of overtime that exists out of there because you're padding your future retirement check, you're going to burn out. You are not going to be able to sustain being exposed to the things that you're exposed to in law enforcement or other high impact performance positions without rest. So create healthy boundaries for the people that you are working with and for yourself. People will go, "Oh, I got an open door." Sometimes you need to close that door and have some quiet time in your office by yourself just to recharge. So you're not a doormat. You are not a wizard with the answer to every problem or every question that somebody has. So know when to refer people, know when to go, hey, I can't help. And I don't know how to uh, relate to what you're going through, but let me do some checking and see if I can and get you to the right people. Third thing to do is anchor yourself in purpose. Remember your why. Why are you here? What is your purpose as a human being? Why did God create you as the unique person that you are? What is your purpose in your career? Uh, and it's what purpose in law enforcement is what turns a really tough 8 or 10 hour or 12-hour shift into a meaningful one. If you have purpose, you define for yourself what your why is every day you put the uniform on, or every day that you're a nurse, a doctor, a counselor, a pastor, whatever it is, that you're going to walk out of that house knowing that you're going to face a ton of pain and suffering that day. What's your purpose? Why are you there? And if you're burned out, take some time off, take vacation, take personal leave days, get recharged, get refocused, get repurposed, whatever that takes. because if you don't, you're going to sink. Fourth thing to do, practice daily reset habits, whatever that is. For some people, it's a prayer life. Some people, it's exercising. It can be journaling or whatever you want to call it. Whatever helps you decompress. Make sure you have a daily reset habit. And by the way, a daily reset habit does not include going home and pounding down a six pack or a couple double shots of bourbon. That's not a reset. That's an unhealthy response to try to minimize pain and suffering. So have a daily habit. One of my daily habits is every day. It's an app on my phone called Laudate, and it's a Catholic app. And every day I read about the lives of one or two saints. Today, I'm sorry, Monday, it was Saint Kateri, first Native American Indian saint in the Catholic Church. And I get inspired by having that reset of seeing. And by the way, she died when she was 22 years old. You look at the martyrs within the Christian faith, horrible deaths for many of them. But I get inspired by their faith, and it helps reset my sense of purpose spiritually. You've heard the expression, uh, it's actually the greatest commandment, but you've heard the expression as uh, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And you'll hear in the philosophical world or in the leadership world, win the hearts and minds of people. And those are the things you have to reset: your heart, mind, and soul. And your heart is not the organ that's in your chest. Your heart is that place that you go internally to make the deepest decisions in your life. Your mind, that is an organ, keeps your ears from touching each other, is where you process everything. Everything begins with the thought. It begins up here in your head. Everything begins with the thought. And then those thoughts create attitudes, a way of thinking. And if you go through life or you go through your career in law enforcement with, I hate everybody, that's how you think, then that's how you're going to act. And you need to reset that. You need to reset your purpose. Whatever you're looking for, you'll always find more of it. And if you're looking for the worst in people, you will find it. If you're looking for the best in people, you'll find it. And that's what this whole thing of having a practice of a daily reset habit is. How are you talking to yourself? What are you thinking? What are you accepting? And are you just shrugging, going, it is what it is? No, it's not. It is what you make it. So have that daily habit of how are you positively resetting your heart, mind, and soul. And by the way, a soul is not some mythical thing that flutters off into the sky when you die. Your soul is everything that makes you a unique creation of God. There is nobody else like you. That's your soul. All your uniqueness, your looks, your calling, your strengths, uh, your weaknesses. I mean, everything about you is unique. That's your soul. And when they say that the expression, don't sell your soul for all the world, you're selling your uniqueness. You're not selling some imaginary mythical thing that floats off into the sky when you die. The last thing, fifth thing, act wisely, not just kindly. Compassion has its limits, and you need to act wisely, strategically, when you are engaging in compassion. It doesn't mean you have to be nice all the time. Compassion can be telling someone point blank, hey, you got significant mental health issues and you need help, or whatever it is. It's we would call it the come to Jesus, meeting kind of conversation. That it means making decisions that help people grow, help people live, and help people have a purpose, not just survive. And those decisions are hard, but you have to act wisely and not just be kind. So, in my 43 plus years now in this whole criminal justice arena, as a, a prosecutor, a cop, a trainer, a lawyer, a parent, I had noticed one big thing, particularly in the law enforcement arena. The people who have struggled most in their law enforcement careers weren't the ones who lacked tactical skills. They were good cops, good tactical cops. Some of them really good and on the SWAT team, but they struggled. And the people that I saw in my career and still see as I train around the country and have conversations, private conversations with people after putting on training, the ones that struggle the most are the ones who, this is going to sound weird, feel too much, too deeply, too often, and have no system for processing that empathy. That's why they struggle. They don't have a process of how do I work through empathy and not drown in the circumstances, in the pain and suffering that I see every day. And I mean, I'm telling you, we see some horrific. I'm so glad I was not on this call, but we had a lady in Dayton in a housing project, whacked out on dope, and she put her infant child into a microwave and hit start. How can you respond to that? It's going to be emotional. You are going to see and feel pain and suffering and get absorbed by it. And if you don't have a process to get beyond that, you're going to struggle deeply on a day-to-day basis. I guess I could best phrase it as folks that get crushed by the weight of their empathy without clarity and how to get to compassion are in for a very, very rough ride. So if you're out there today and you're drowning in what you feel, that I'm touching a nerve, that you are that very empathetic person, but don't have a process or a system or someone to help you grasp how can I transition from being empathetic to being compassionate, you're not alone. You don't have to stop feeling to be effective. And that's not what I'm telling you to do. I want you to feel empathy. That's one of the most sacred human responses we can have, but it's not the only. You just have to stop carrying that empathy, that weight alone. You can lead with your heart, but lead with the power and strength of compassion as well. That's what makes a difference in your life and in the life of the people that you serve, is your compassion. So, pretty deep one today. Maybe a little bit of a gut punch for some people, a head scratcher for some other people, or hey, I've touched a very sensitive spot, and you want to learn more, do more um, in this arena. Um, I want to thank you for being here. If you stayed for the whole podcast, I really want to thank you. If this is an episode that hits home with you, or for someone you know, if someone needs to hear this message, please share it. Send it to a teammate, send it to a leader that you know that needs to hear it. And it doesn't have to be in law enforcement, man. Chaplains, counselors, nurses. I mean, there's a whole group of people, community of people who every day uh, they walk out the door knowing um, I'm going to see and feel pain and suffering today. And I want them to be able to not just hope they get through it, but have a very definitive system and process to know that they're not alone and they can keep feeling and keep solving and helping other people through their problems. You're not alone. Don't carry it alone. So thanks for being here today. Visit the Warrior Servant Leader podcast.com for more resources, our previous episodes, because I kind of build on other this topic in other episodes as well. If you want to book a free consultation or want to talk about how to bring compassionate leadership to your agency or to your company, reach out to me on warriorservantleaderpodcast.com and just click on book a call and let's sit down and have a 30-minute conversation. Doesn't cost you a penny. And if I can't help you, I can refer you. I can get you to resources. I know when to rest. I know when to release, and I know when to refer. So reach out, talk to me. I'm Pat Welsh, host of the Warrior Servant Leader podcast. Stay anchored, stay strong, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Love you all.